noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, mics are on. Hey, let's go. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good noon, Scotty.
Life good in the Olsen house over the weekend?
Not bad. How about you?
Yeah. Doing a lot of work. My yard is overgrown because I'm doing house stuff. And
how's the house? Did you get the painting done?
got some of it. Stage 1 is done.
Oh, good.
There's 3 stages. And then we got to move stuff around and then attack stage 2 and then move stuff around again and then attack stage 3.
Well, this is getting done before your bathroom, so that's good. That bathroom took a minute.
Yeah, may not.
Was that bathroom over a year project?
Oh, yeah. And frankly, there's still some stuff that probably needs
in
to
the
be
bathroom? I thought you
just some random stuff that I can probably just do.
little caulk and elbow grease.
Yeah, a little bit of that, and we're bringing in the heater because it's like 61 degrees in here.
Oh, yes. Thank you. It's unbelievable. The hotter it gets outside, the colder it gets in
Would
here.
you do that on camera, Lloyd?
What did he do?
I can't do it. Look at him.
Lloyd Cole, our producer, is giving. Is that the heart symbol? I think he's giving us the heart
He's
symbol.
saying, "I love you guys."
It's just weird that why the thumbs are pointed the wrong way.
Yeah.
So the heart symbol.
Yeah.
I love that, Lloyd. We love you. Thank you for being concerned about our well-being. Scotty and I are afraid of getting pneumonia here in the studio. So.
I know. Like they're like, "Why are you on workman's comp?" And they're like, "Well, because we got pneumonia in studio while doing a show."
Which pneumonia is going to really slow us down. So we need to get some heat going in here. Thank you, Lloyd, for heating us up when it's 95 degrees outside.
Yes.
If we had a window, we could just open that. Let's just carve a window right through.
Remember that time you almost pushed me out the window there at the old studios?
No, actually. I don't.
We were wrestling, and you slammed me up against the window, and that sucker buckled.
The 5th floor of the Delta?
Lloyd, do you remember that? When
I never pushed Scotty against the window at the Delta.
We were wrestling.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Huh. Now, look, it wasn't unprovoked. I was a willing participant. And, but...
how did that window not go?
I know, because we were beefy.
Yeah. We were sharing probably 550 at the time.
I think...
Because I was giving you 3.
No, you can go a little bit more on me, not you.
I can't believe we didn't go through the window. But it was all good. Lloyd's got us heating up. We've got a lot of sports stories. It's crazy how much sports we've got in a crazy summer here. So a lot of things to get to.
Let's do it. Hans and Scotty, 12:08 as we kick off your Monday right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Hans and Scotty G.
Let's go.
The lineup is set, and it's time to kick off the show with the biggest topic of the day. This is the starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a tremendous Monday. It is your starting lineup, all brought to you by our friends at Mountain Supply, where the pros go for all your irrigation needs. Frankly, if water runs through it, they'll get you taken care of. Find a location near you at mountainland.com.
Do you feel like we're trying to build Boston West here?
A little bit, yeah. And if you can replicate the results in Boston, then I'm all for it.
So I do feel like it's kind of a Boston West situation. The Utah Jazz hired Boston Celtics assistant GM Austin Ainge, who is the son of Danny Ainge.
Yes, played at BYU.
As the franchise president of basketball operations. And as you read more into this, by the way, he spent 14 years working in Boston's front office and the last 6 in his current role as the assistant GM. So this guy is very well versed. He's been around a very long time. He is a former, as you mentioned, former BYU basketball player, but he is another piece of the Boston Celtics. And the first thing I thought when I saw his name was Jaylen Brown's in play. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen it anywhere. But the first thing I thought when I saw Austin Ainge was Jaylen Brown's in play. And maybe something else is in play. Maybe Kristaps Porzingis, who's got a final year on his contract with the Boston Celtics. I don't know what exactly to take from this, but I do know Boston is on their way out.
Yes.
They're ready to crash through the basement floor. They're going to be on a full-on rebuild because they're without Jason Tatum next year. Jaylen Brown is rumored to be moving on. Kristaps Porzingis will be in the final year of his deal. In 25-26 is the final year of his deal. You've got a couple of guys that are locked up. Derek White is locked up all the way to 28-29. That's a really lengthy contract, but still affordable at about $28 million per year. It's still affordable.
Yeah.
And I think the Utah Jazz are looking at it and saying, all right, got a former coach, already got a former GM, grab their assistant GM. Everybody's familiar. Anybody from Jaylen Brown on through should be familiar with the names and the people here. And it makes me wonder a little bit. How much are they looking at a potential grab off this Boston Celtics roster? Or do you think I'm way off and this is just the right way to go?
I don't think that they're hiring Austin Ainge for the sole purpose of Jaylen Brown. But I do think, so when you saw the news come out, the immediate thought was, and I wasn't even aware this was a term, but I've seen it all over the place today, Nepo baby. And I'm like, what is Nepo baby? Well, it's a kid that's a product of nepotism. So everybody's thinking, okay, Danny Ainge is paving the way for his son to get a nice cush gig as a president of basketball operations with an NBA team. Look, maybe so. Let's be honest. Austin Ainge probably has had opportunities available to him because of his dad that he may not have had otherwise. But that also does not mean that he hasn't cut his teeth and done everything that he needed to do to get this opportunity. Because if you do look at the resume of Austin Ainge, he has been in that front office in Boston, working his way up as a scout to a point now where he was integral and part of the team building under not just his dad, Danny Ainge, but was there with Brad Stevens and was Brad Stevens' right-hand man in building and maintaining a team that won a championship and was very close to winning a championship in other times as well. So you just can't look at it and say, oh, he's not qualified just because of his lineage. You look at the resume is very, very astute. I mean, it's very well put together. So I think that you're looking at somebody who does have ties to players that will hit the open market in the offseason and that the Jazz could look at. And if that gives you an advantage, albeit.
So be it.
So be it.
Yeah.
Does it also mean that he's a guy that can help with roster development and finding gems that might be available to you at number 21 in the NBA draft or second-round picks that could be available down the line for the Utah Jazz in scouting and developing and what this person might look in our roster? Yes. Is it also a guy that's got a lot of history in dealing with Will Hardy and having a prior relationship there? Absolutely, yes. So everything you're saying is absolutely true, and then we can add on to it with a bunch of other things as well.
I had a little text exchange back and forth with one of his former teammates at BYU. I was just asking him, because I don't know anything about Austin Ainge.
Yeah.
I think he played at BYU just after me and while I was playing professional.
Yeah, yep.
So I don't know much about him. I did know that he was been in that Boston Celtics organization for a lot of years. 17 years total.
Correct.
In different forms. But in texting back and forth, his former teammate told me that his best attribute, his number one attribute, is talent identification. This is number one. And that's what he's been doing a lot with Boston, talent identification, according to this person. So, I mean, he would know way more than me, so I'll lean on that guy. In that, you were talking about some of his qualifications. So with the Celtics, he's been a part of 6 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. 6. Last time the Utah Jazz saw a Western Conference Finals, people, was back in 2006.
Yeah.
He's been a part of 6 of them since he's been with the Boston Celtics. He's been a part of 2 NBA Finals. And he's been a part of 1 championship team.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, a pretty important part. And I'm not saying that he's the one out there that's pulling the triggers and calling the shots, but if he comes to me and let's say I'm in charge of pulling a trigger in the second round of this upcoming draft, because we talk about 5-21, but they've also got 43 and 53. So if Austin Ainge comes to me and he says, hey, boss, I think that there's a potential of a Nikola Jokic. Oh, really? In what way? I think if this dude can move to 43, and I think if we get the right development, I think this guy could be the next great 43. I'm going to open my ears, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to say, all right, well, what comparisons do you have? When you were with the Celtics, what did you do in the second round? Why do you think this? And just really pick his brain, because the guy's got 17 years of Boston Celtics experience. Also, talk about living in a pressure cooker.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Celtics put you in a pressure cooker, Scotty.
Unlike really anything else in sports. I mean, we talk about Toronto and the NHL and what that fan base is like. I think the Boston Celtics and that fan base is about similar to what we've talked about with Toronto
I do too.
And NHL.
Well, look at this. I mean, you've got an exit from the postseason, and you've got this team locked up that had won a championship. You have an exit out of the postseason, an unexpected exit, because you get an Achilles tear and the bum luck that goes against you, and you get an exit. Everybody's like, Jaylen Brown's gone. White is an albatross. Porzingis sucks. Tatum's going to be out a year. And the whole thing collapses on him. Austin Ainge is like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be in this pressure cooker. And I was in Boston for 1 week at that Red Sox game. And that week, that pitcher, that reliever came in, gave up 3 runs against the Mets, and gets death threats. And it's the big story the week that I get home.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at that Red Sox game, and it's whatever it is, 32,000 fans. It's 32,000 fans tight in there. 32,000. However many Fenway can fit. I think it's around 32,000. Both nights, tight. People are locked in, engaged.
I've heard there's not a lot of breathing room when that place is packed. You're shoulder to shoulder.
There's zero.
Yeah.
There's zero, but it makes it really fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it creates a very unique atmosphere. And by the way, they're not as disturbing and disgusting in person or at the. I had great experiences, but they care more than I've ever seen a fan base care, ever. And I think Boston has been a pressure cooker for Austin Ainge, and I hope that he doesn't come in here and like, oh, finally I can breathe and settle down a little bit. No, don't do that. Bring whatever intensity that you've been working with in Boston and bring that to the front office here with the Utah Jazz, and I'll put a smile on my face. Find me a gym at 43, and I'll put a smile on my face. Help facilitate a move because you believe in Ace Bailey, and you believe in it to the point you're putting your name on it with your dad, and so you put together a package to move to number 3 to go get Ace Bailey. Like, do and be a part of something aggressive and something exciting. Don't come in here and be a Nepo baby.
Nepo baby, yeah.
Don't come in here and be a Nepo baby. Come in here and be, hair lit on fire.
Have you heard that term before?
Never. No, that was
Lloyd, have you heard that?
That was the first I've heard of it. I know a lot of them.
I was this morning. I was talking about it. My 14-year-old's like, because he's like thinking he wants to get into broadcasting. He goes, "Can I be your Nepo baby?" I'm like, there ain't nothing I can do to help you out.
Hey, look, if we're going to work for his nepotism, let's do it where we can make money.
I need you to be successful because I need you to fund my retirement. And going in this business, I ain't going to do it for Dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and by the way, nepotism in this business is difficult unless, you own a state. Like, you got to own signals or you got to really own stations or something.
Yeah.
But just being a voice, it doesn't play a role.
It ain't going to happen for you, buddy.
Doesn't play a role. 'Cause why Nepo into $58,000 a year? Let's make smart choices.
You Nepo into like 300,000-400,000. Go. You know what's a lot easier to be a Nepo baby is to marry a trust fund girl.
There you go.
That's what you do.
Now that's the kind of Nepo baby I'm looking for.
Exactly.
But I do like the move.
Well,
potentially.
And the thing is, you are, by the way, giving Austin Ainge a lot of keys here to work with. Now look, I don't know this per se, but I get the general sense based on the wording of his title of President of Basketball Operations. I believe Justin Zanik's probably going to report to him. So you are looking at somebody
So
who
you just hired Zanik's boss?
yeah, that's my
According to the title.
that's just me reading between the lines that
Wow.
he
Then you are putting a lot.
you're putting a lot of trust and faith into him. And Danny Ainge, look, Danny, I want to say this the right way because Danny Ainge has a huge impact on what happens with the Jazz, but not the day-to-day operations. Like he said, and Danny's been pretty upfront and honest, I don't want to deal with the day-to-day bleep. Okay, I don't want to. Danny Ainge is here for two real big reasons, the NBA draft and free agency. Those are what he considers to be fun, and he's at a point in his life where he can dip his toe into the waters when it's fun and then jump out when it's not fun. He doesn't want to deal with marketing and sponsorships and what's social media doing and all this other stuff. He doesn't want to deal with any of that, and he's old enough and established enough, he doesn't have to deal with that stuff. So what he wants to do is do the stuff that is fun for him that he's really good at, and that's the draft and that's the lottery. Or excuse me, that's free agency. And trades and things along those lines.
Lottery, not so much.
And so
that was not so much fun.
Exactly. No, nothing was fun about that. And I think if you're Austin Ainge, you're looking at coming in, and if I'm Danny, I'm like, Danny's looking at it and saying, I got number 5, okay? That's my baby. I'm going to find the face of this Jazz team, whether it's 5 or moving up or whatever the case is.
Or packaging it all.
Yeah. He goes, what I need you to do is go find our Peyton Pritchard, who was drafted at 26 and is a big part of that Celtics team. I need you to find who we can get at number 21, who's going to be a really good role player. That's what I want you to do.
Or a potential piece of gold at 43.
Exactly. Or the next, if you can find the next stud, that would be incredible as well.
See, that's the guy I'm always looking for. I want the guy that can identify that guy.
Yes.
And Walt Perrin used to, be pretty darn good back. Was that his name?
Walt Perrin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He used to be pretty darn good.
I loved Walt.
Back in the day, he'd sniff out a Paul Millsap, or he'd sniff out a Rudy Gobert, or he'd find something that was at least entertaining and interesting. If he's that guy, fine. I'm happy with that. That'd be great. If he could be that guy, just sniff that out. But this is a big hire, man. I didn't realize that hiring at the player personnel was going to be that significant.
Yeah, this is a big move. This is a big move today by the Jazz.
So, a couple of other thoughts that I've been harping on this for the better part of a year and a half now. Going back to the 2023 draft, when there were 3 picks, Danny Ainge was identifying young talent. We knew that the Jazz were going to head to the youth development. And I've been harping on this probably to the point where people are sick of hearing me talk about it. But I'm going to continue to push it because last season on your roster, you had 8 players that were age 23 or younger. Just this last season, 23 years or younger, 8 of them out of whatever, 14, 15? 8. 23 or younger. And now you're talking about potentially adding at least 2 more at 5 and 21. Now, you'll have 1 or 2 that'll age out of 23, but you're going to probably put another couple that are under 23. And so the youth development is so critical. And I want to know, how much can Austin Ainge help me there? If I'm a Jazz fan, if I'm Danny Ainge, if I'm Ryan Smith, if I'm Justin Zanik, how much can you help me here? Because I got all these young guys. It's herding cats, man. I'm trying to keep them in line and keep them professionally motivated and help them understand that their body is their business. And even though they're making millions, to put the millions back into their business and blah, 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 and on and on and on. Everything that I ran through my mind 1,000 times as a rookie or a second year or third year player in the NFL. You're just constantly learning how to build yourself and develop. At least that's what you should be learning.
Yeah.
And I am very hopeful because here's the thing. You can fill your front office with all the new and fresh faces and all the best people in the world that you want. But if you aren't getting your young guys to believe that they're top-end professional athletes and treat themselves as such, it's wasted. It's all just wasted motion. It's wasted money. It's wasted movement. Those players have to be taught to be dogs. They have to be hungry. They have to be developed. You got to find the right talent. Right, Austin Ainge, you got to find the right talent. But these guys have to be built into the Jason Tatums of the world, into the Derek Whites of the world.
Yep.
Into the Jaylen Browns of the world. They have to be built. They don't just come that way. They're not just pre-packaged to be great. Guys latch on to top-end professionals. That's why I've always talked about, like, I wouldn't mind keeping Mike Conley around a little bit, because I do believe that Mike handles his business in a professional way. Now, he fell short, and I think that Minnesota will continue to fall short as long as they're putting the majority of their money into Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley. Well, not the majority, but a good portion into Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley, because I think that there are talent limitations there. And I think Mike's kind of aging out. But what Mike probably gave to Edwards is probably priceless.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
So, I just think about those things, Scotty. You're going to have a roster full of 23 minus on your team. So what can Austin Ainge do for me? What can any of you do for me? Because those guys have to believe that they are the next group, the next 4 or 5, the next grouping of the greats in the NBA. You have to find a way to make them buy into that.
Well, and when the Jazz acquired Patty Mills last offseason, I think there was a thought that Patty could kind of be that guy. But I think he did to a certain extent, and he tried, but, obviously he's at a point in his career where he's not going to have that kind of impact. You got to have somebody that may not necessarily be a superstar in the league, but still has enough quality left in his game that people are going to listen and be like, okay, this guy's showing up early, this guy's staying late, this guy's getting in shots, he always is in the weight room, and he's demanding greatness out of us. And that is, like, there's a lot of people out there that believe LeBron didn't take the next step in his career of being an elite player until he went to the Olympics in 2008 and was around Kobe. And when he worked with Kobe every single day for that summer, that's when he's like, oh, that's what I got to do to be great. And then he ends up becoming another level of a player.
Well, I do wonder with Boston a little bit. I kind of wonder if that's why they've kept Al Horford around. Al had to be some type of impressionable.
Has to be,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you bring a guy like Drew Holiday in.
Yep, another guy.
Yeah, those two guys, I think, would bring an intensity and a level of professionalism. And, Drew, at the very least, I'll play both sides. I'll give you effort. At least that's the way I look at it. So Austin's got to look at that and be like, okay, well, what was it that built Boston? Now, he would know better than I, but I've seen a couple old dogs that they've kept around for a minute, and I've wondered, well, why? Why keep him around? Well, every once in a while, Horford will rotate out to the perimeter. He'll knock down a three, and he'll give you what he should be giving you at this age in his career, and hopefully he's helping build guys like Neemias Queta.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm Neemias Queta, I don't hate being around Al Horford. He's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just am drawing these comparisons because I feel like it's a Boston West. And if you're going to build a Boston West, that's great, but you better be ready for player development, player identification, talent identification. You're going to have to hit a couple of times big or pull off that big move that does bring in a Jaylen Brown. And I'm not opposed to it. Now, Jaylen Brown's going to cost you nearly $60 million a year. That's where Jaylen Brown is.
Yep.
Over the next 4 years of his contract, he's going to be right around $60 million a year. But can he impart that wisdom? Can Jaylen Brown be that guy that's like, hey, I've been there. I know what it takes. Follow me. Get on my tails. Let's do this together. This is how it goes. And with the reinforcement of Austin Ainge and Danny Ainge and Will Hardy and all of them, like, okay, everybody listen to Jaylen. Jaylen, run these practices. Jaylen, let's get these kids in order. We've got a lot of talent. But if you can get them to follow you, then we could be great like we were in Boston. It's just an idea, just a thought.
1228, Hanson Scotty, good friend of the program, Tim Lacombe, who knows Austin Ainge and coached Austin Ainge. We will chat with him coming up at 1:05 right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number one.
Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hanson Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. New sheriff in town for the Utah Jazz, Austin Ainge. And makes me feel old because I remember covering Austin Ainge when he was at BYU.
So he would have been one of your first covers.
Oh,
then.
yeah. Yep.
Decent basketball player?
Yeah, good basketball player. Really good shooter. Good three-point shooter. Good floor general. You know, all the other little stereotypes you can throw in there. Scrappy. Did things the right way. But no, he was a good player. Lloyd, you remember him, right?
Yes. He could shoot it. He had the green light.
Well, I know that he cut his teeth in college coaching, right? Didn't he jump on it like Utah Tech or
something like just for a moment,
maybe, or it was SUU,
and just for a moment, and then got a job in the NBA world, and once you get those jobs, you stay there. But you know, the thing is, I know that and look, I see Twitter, and I'm sure the Jazz are fully prepared for the reaction that they were going to get. But at the end of the day, you're not hiring people that aren't qualified. And by the way, the press conference introducing Austin Ainge will take place at 3:00, and you'll hear it right here on the Zone. But you don't make that hire if there isn't a high level of qualifications. And you look at the resume. This isn't somebody that was just hanging out at home playing Xbox downstairs and like, Dad, I need a job. I mean, this dude put in the work. He put in the time and cut his teeth and did it the right way.
Okay, so I'll admit to this. One thing I'm learning is that the label president of basketball operations is actually a much more significant label than I think a lot of people out there might think.
Yeah, no, this guy's going to be running the show. This guy's going to be running the show for the Utah Jazz.
So, because when you see head of football operations, or there are about 10 different titles now in college football.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that guy comes in, he schedules some flights and gets hotels, and then he's the kicking dog when people are ticked off. He's the one that gets kicked.
Yep.
But president of basketball operations.
Somewhere Zach Nyberg just heard you and started smiling because
he knows.
Yeah.
It's a tough job.
Oh, it's the worst job.
Don't envy those guys at all.
I would never want that job.
But president of basketball operations, which I know that's a higher label in the professional leagues than it is college. I completely understand that, but I guess I'm kind of misinterpreting to a point how big this is for the Utah Jazz. Yeah. This is a big move and hire.
You have essentially hired somebody that will report to Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith. I think those are the only two he would report to.
Everybody else reports to him.
I think Justin Zanik will report to Austin Ainge. Yes. I think Will Hardy reports to Justin Zanik, who reports to Austin Ainge. And I think, now, granted, one thing, and I think Ryan Smith deserves a lot of credit for this, and I think this is how he built Qualtrics and some of his other businesses, at least people that I've talked to. And you and I were part of, he purchased the radio station in the Jazz, and we were there for maybe less than a year before we came over here to Bonneville, and they sold the radio station to Bonneville. So we weren't really part of the organization and didn't really see much of what was about to be built there before we were on here to a different organization. But from the people that I've talked to that are part of the Jazz, who worked with him at Qualtrics, he wants a lot of people to have autonomy. And there's a kumbaya element.
Ryan does.
Yeah. There's a kumbaya element of, I'm going to allow a lot of people to do a lot of things and hope that everybody comes together and figures things out. Because I guarantee you, somebody is going to ask Austin Ainge or Ryan Smith or Danny Ainge at a press conference day, or Justin Zanik, who has the final say in the draft room and who reports to who. And I guarantee you the message is going to be, we all will have our different responsibilities. We will all come together as a group, and we will all make a collective agreement as to where it's at. And that's not lip service.
So the message won't be Danny Ainge has final say.
No, I don't think so. But I do think Danny will have final say.
That's what I think, yeah.
But I don't think that's what the message will be publicly, and I don't think it's going to be lip service. I think Ryan Smith wants an organization where everybody has equal amounts of leadership. Nobody really appears to be over anybody else, even though there is, your old stereotypical hierarchy of charts and graphs and all that stuff that people like to do in the corporate world. But I do think that you will see a presentation of a leadership group that will say, we all will be decision makers. We all will come together in a room. We all will make decisions together as a collective group. And then when we do make that decision, we will present a unified group with that decision, whether it be free agents, drafts, trades, things along those lines. And I think that the hope is that that is able to work and work at a high level.
Okay, so I'll just give you some of my deep observations. And you know, that's pretty much I love to just sit back and do depth observation.
Yes.
What I'm observing right now with this Utah Jazz organization as a whole is it's a full-on leveled commitment. When you extended Will Hardy to the 2031 season after a 17-win season, and you extend him out to 2031, and then you bring in an Austin Ainge, you know you're committed to Danny Ainge. There is a level of commitment to this group that's kind of unique, and I'll tell you why I am even bringing this up. Because when you go through hard times, that galvanizes crews, that unifies you. It's the same with a football team. And as a high school sophomore, if I go through a 2-win season, but I go through that 2-win season with 6 other guys that are going to be seniors my senior year, and we're preparing for our senior year, and we're both saying, do you remember that 2-win season? Bull crap. That'll never happen again. And you've got this veteran leadership that bled together when things were really bad. All of a sudden, when times get tough and times start getting good, you're all on board together. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I feel like Will Hardy just took a crew through the worst time that they'll go through as a professional, anybody in a professional front office. And they're adding this Austin Ainge piece that I think is a direct conduit. All his connections to Will Hardy and his dad and probably quite a few talent that are on the roster that he probably scouted and knows really well. Because this talent is loaded with guys that maybe have 2 years of experience that Austin's very familiar with. And he's saying, all right, nobody's going anywhere. Nobody is going anywhere. We're going to fight through this 17-win season. We'll probably fight through another 17-win season. We're all going to hate each other. We're all going to cry in our Cheerios. We're all going to hate life to the point where we all come together and say, we got to do better. And how do we do it? That's just a former professional athlete's 30,000-foot view and observation of what's going on with Ryan Smith. He wants everybody to go through the fire.
Yeah.
And if you go through the fire, when we get on the other side, as long as I've got the right people, we'll go through the fire. And then when we get out on the other side, we're all going to be better for it to the point that we'll make a run together. Because I want the people that are going to make the run, I want them to have suffered and see what this is all for. And you should get some benefit out of that.
Makes it taste a little sweeter. That's for sure.
Well, you know, in this crazy sports radio world here in the state, it's been crazy, man.
Always has been.
Yeah, it's just a rodeo. Like there are guys that you ride or die with in this business because you know that they've been through it. And I remember going back years and years ago talking to, I think it was DJ. And DJ's like, you know, you don't even get your feet wet in this business until you get fired. You're not even starting in this business until you lose a job. And, you know, you look at the guys that are mainstays and long-timers in this market, they've been through the war. And on the other side, they get to enjoy some of the benefits of it. And I know who's been through the war. I know who's been through the battle. And I respect those people, you know. And I think it's the same way in all business. And that's what it's going to be with the Utah Jazz. He's just made a long-term commitment. And Austin's not coming in for a pit stop.
No.
Right?
No, this is, I mean, look, this is a higher job than a general manager. He's essentially running an NBA team. I mean, this is going to be his baby. He's got a general manager that will report to him. He will report to Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith. And frankly, Danny Ainge probably won't be in the office much outside of the NBA draft and free agency. So Austin Ainge is right now kind of your face of the Utah Jazz. It may not be so publicly, but make no mistake, this was a monster hire by the Utah Jazz in terms of the autonomy and the amount of responsibilities given to this young man. And I say young man, he's 43. He's not a spring chicken. But this is a major hire by the Utah Jazz.
Feels like a young man in this business, except for you look at Will Hardy and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's a young man.
That is, yeah. As long as anybody that's younger than me is a young man.
Yeah, but congratulations to Austin Ainge, and I hope that he is the magic touch. I hope he's got the magic eye. I hope he can identify talent like people tell me he can. And obviously they've identified a lot of talent, brought it into Boston. They organized one hell of a roster in Boston.
Yeah.
That even if I'm Boston ownership, if I'm just the Boston brass, I'm looking around like, are we really ready? Are we really ready to slam the hammer down on a TNT box on this thing?
They may not have a choice.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Or do we suffer through a year because we've got Jaylen Brown locked down? They've got Jaylen Brown locked down through whatever it was, the 29 season. We got Derek White locked down, whatever it is, the 29 season, I think.
Do we have to get rid of these guys?
So do we wait a year, suffer through with Jason Tatum, getting him healthy, try to add another piece, maybe move Kristaps for something? But that's not what they're doing. To me, a bit of Austin Ainge leaving Boston is him saying, nah, that's sinking. Because if you're Austin, you don't leave Boston. I mean, I know that it's looked at to potentially be Danny Ainge's replacement at his son Austin when Danny sells off into the sunset, which it can't be more than 5 years, 6 years. Danny's getting up there.
Yeah.
What do you think Danny is, 62?
Oh, I think he might be north of that.
You think he might be north of 62?
Yeah.
64 maybe?
I think he's closer to 70 than 60.
Oh, really?
That's just my guess.
Well,
just barely.
It's a good guess. Okay, so 66.
Wow, 66 years old.
So, you know, if I'm Danny, like you said, I'm enjoying my time because I don't got to deal with the media. I told him I don't want the day-to-day crap.
Yep.
I don't have to deal with all the heartbreak and all the misery. And all I get to do is just go have fun, identify some talent, make some moves, be bold, and try to use my name for leverage. Like, that's great. At some point, it's like, I'm ready to step away from that too. 70? 71? So what does that leave? 4 years?
3-4 years. Yep.
So essentially, if I'm Danny, I'm just building my son into my replacement.
Yeah.
Would be my hope.
All right, what you may have missed coming up next, a little college baseball update. Some interesting storylines coming up out of the weekend. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Chin. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
So you can't have your headlights on the car? Or
No,
what?
you can have your headlights on. It's house lights.
Really?
Yeah. So any house light that points out or up has to be off. So all of our house lights just point down. You can't have upward pointing house lights. Or outward. Yeah.
It's a light ordinance in Eagle Mountain. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that existed.
Yeah.
So you don't want something shining outward when somebody's
what about
like maybe a late night porch pirate's coming by.
Yeah.
You could just downward light, yeah. Just
so like, what about Christmas? They wave it during like Christmas?
I think they must, right? Because everybody's got their Christmas lights on. I don't know how they manage that exactly. And not everybody abides. But all the city has to abide, which I do like that.
Yeah.
So like
the dude must abide.
The dude.
Like all the street lights that they put up on schools, they all have to face down. Nothing can be like a light that distracts from the stars, apparently, is what they're interested in. I guess Eagle Mountain was founded by astronomers. So
Oh, I guess so.
they like the stars.
Got a star watch, for crying out loud.
Well, this is the lull. This is the time that we have to stall and wait. We don't get any postseason play until Wednesday.
Yep.
NHL Stanley Cup puck drops Wednesday, 6 p.m., Panthers and Oilers. I do love the matchup.
I do too.
It is a reunion of the two finalists last year. There's bad blood. It's Canada, Florida. It's all things that you want. It's the tough team versus the best player in the league. It's just got everything that you could want. I can't say the same about the NBA.
No.
Got to wait till Thursday. Just a lull till game one Thursday.
Hate that. Hate it. Hate it. You know that Vegas has the odds of, you can bet on anything these days, as we all well know. But one of the bets is how long the series will go, how many games. And the number that's getting the best odds is 5 games.
Yeah.
It's 2-1.
If you gave me 5, I'd take either 5 or the under.
And that's the second best odds are 4 games, a sweep.
Well, when's the first time you saw a NBA Finals game series open and a team be a 10-point favorite in the finals?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Oklahoma City's a 10-point favorite in game one on Thursday. That was the opening number. I don't know what it's at.
Pacers aren't schlubs either.
No, they're not horrible. It's just Oklahoma City's so much better.
And the West was so much better.
Yeah.
And it's kind of looked as a bit fluky that the Pacers came out of the East. You know, you had to have injuries happen with Cleveland. You had to have injuries happen with Boston. You had to have some things go your way against New York. And you found your way out of the East. But everybody's like, yeah, the East is a sham. Look what Oklahoma City had to go through. Well, all right, big deal. You had to beat the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. You might have had some bumps and bruises along the way, but OKC made light work of most. I expect it to be a 5-game.
Yeah.
And if you said 5, I'd take the under.
I think you'll get a gentleman's sweep.
If you gave me 4.5, I'd probably take the over because I do think it's probably 5.
Yeah.
But if you gave me the 5, I'd say we'll probably break even.
Yeah.
But I'm taking the under. It's more likely 4 than it is 6, is what I'm saying.
Hey, congratulations to UVU. Their baseball team stunned Oregon in the NCAA tournament opener, knocked the Ducks back into the losers bracket. Unfortunately, though, the Wolverines ended up losing to Arizona 14-4, and I believe they lost last night as well to wrap up their run. But heck of a game.
Well, it's a great win, and beating Oregon was great. And everybody's seen the big controversy that surrounded it. And Oregon was getting themselves back into this. I think at that point, UVU had a couple of run lead, and Oregon had an opportunity to get within 1 run, I believe it was. And this guy named Anson Araz hit a pop fly into left field and was turning the corner. And the throw came in from the outfield, and he was headed home. The throw was just over the catcher's glove, if I remember right, just over the catcher's glove. And as the catcher missed the ball, he kind of tucked, and Araz went right into him, just went right through him. The NCAA's reviewed the call. They ended up calling it malicious contact. They waved off the run, and they ejected the player. The NCAA reviewed it, and they said, no, it's the proper call.
Yeah.
I don't think so. That's just me.
Yeah.
But I think by the letter of the law.
But here's 2 guys that have fallen in love with hockey. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and 2 guys that grew up watching baseball players with an opportunity to headhunt on a catcher.
Yeah. Look, we all remember Pete Rose in the All-Star game.
Yeah, your job was to take off their heads so that they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But NCAA
the
rules.
Buster Posey thing changed that.
Yeah, your guy.
Yeah, when he shattered his ankle.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh, the poor Giants.
And that changed it.
That changed it, yeah.
Great job, Posey.
Poser.
Hey, you shut your mouth. Don't talk about Posey like that.
Well, if he had stronger ankles, we could get away with this stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. That's not Contact's fault. That's him just not
being tough enough.
Drinking enough milk when he was younger.
More milk.
Ejected from malicious contact. And it's all you saw on social media. Saturday.
And last night in 11 innings, UVU loses to Cal Poly 7-6, and so UVU season is over. But heck, you can really hang your hat on a big time win for sure.
Didn't that one end off was it maybe not a walk off, but there was a home run late.
Yeah.
That caused that. Arizona whooped them up good though.
Yeah.
14-4.
Yeah, UVU had a go-ahead run in the 10th inning, but weren't able to extend that, and then Cal Poly comes back and gets the win. There's look, I don't watch a lot of baseball, college baseball, but there was another big upset too that a team that won like 17 games ends up beating LSU at LSU, and they'll play again. But yeah, I don't know. College baseball, apparently crazy things can happen all the time.
Did you mention that Wolverines win was a 4 seed over a 1 seed?
Yes.
Okay, it's a big upset.
That's a huge upset.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, 1 o'clock straight up. The great Tim Lacombe will tell you everything you need to know about Austin Ainge and what he means to this Jazz organization. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.